The power of alignment, when you put God and purpose first. Everything in your life begins with alignment. Before you see progress, before you see prosperity, before you see peace, you must first align. Alignment is not about how fast you move, it's about moving in the right direction. So many people are busy chasing success, yet they are running on the wrong track. They exhaust themselves with effort, but they never reach fulfillment because they never took time to align their life with divine purpose. When your heart, your habits, and your hope are aligned with God, everything that felt chaotic begins to find its order. You don't have to force opportunities anymore. They start to flow. You don't have to beg people to stay. The right people start to show up. Alignment is what allows you to move with ease in the direction of destiny. When you put God first, you shift from trying to create your own light to reflecting His. The world will tell you to hustle harder, grind nonstop, and chase everything. But what if the key isn't chasing, it's aligning? When you align with God's plan, you begin to operate from rest, not restlessness. You begin to understand that success is not about accumulation, it's about assignment. Every person has been designed for a specific purpose, a calling that's tailor-made for their soul. And when you put God and that purpose first, you stop competing with others because you finally understand that nobody can beat you at being you. The power is not in comparison, it's in clarity. Alignment gives you that clarity. Now, alignment requires surrender. It's easy to say you want what God has for you, but are you willing to let go of what you have for yourself? Are you willing to release your own timeline, your own preferences, your own pride? Because alignment always requires adjustment. God cannot fill what is already full of your own will. To align with Him means you must make room for His wisdom, room for His direction, room for His correction. Sometimes alignment feels like delay, but in truth, it's preparation. God slows you down, not to punish you, but to protect you. He keeps certain doors closed because your character isn't ready for the pressure behind them. That's alignment, God shaping you before He shows you. When you put purpose before pleasure, everything changes. Most people are living reactive lives, responding to the noise, the news, the next trend. But people of alignment live proactive lives. They start their day with intention, they move with direction, they speak with conviction, and they refuse to be distracted by things that do not serve their destiny. When you are aligned, you no longer chase validation, you chase vision. You stop living for applause and start living for assignment. This is where the shift happens, when your life stops being about impressing others and starts being about impacting others. True power doesn't come from proving who you are. It comes from walking in who God says you are. Alignment also brings peace. You can't buy peace, you can't manipulate peace, and you can't fake peace. Peace only comes when your actions and your beliefs agree, when your words match your walk, when your faith matches your focus. That's why alignment is powerful. It removes the inner conflict. It takes away the double-mindedness that keeps you stuck between fear and faith. Once you're aligned, decisions become easier. You don't waste time asking, what if? Because you already know who you're walking with. You start trusting God's yes and resting in His no. And that peace becomes your superpower. Now, here's what many people miss. Alignment doesn't just attract blessings, it attracts battles. The moment you decide to align with God, you will face opposition. Distraction will increase. Temptation will appear. People will question you. Why? Because alignment exposes everything that isn't meant for your elevation. When you get serious about your purpose, you start to see who and what doesn't fit anymore. That's not rejection, that's redirection. Every closed door is a form of divine protection. Every lost friendship, every ended season, every denied opportunity, all of it was meant to refine your alignment. So instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this preparing me for? Alignment transforms pain into purpose and obstacles into opportunity. When your life is aligned, your success becomes inevitable. Because success is not just about what you do, it's about who you are becoming while you do it. God never blesses who you pretend to be. He blesses who you truly are. That's why alignment matters more than appearance. The outside might look good, but if the inside isn't aligned, it will all collapse. Think of a building. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks if the foundation is crooked. The same is true for your life. Alignment is your foundation. When your heart is right, your habits follow. When your habits align with your values, your outcomes align with your destiny. You stop forcing results and start flowing in rhythm with divine order. You were never meant to live scattered, chasing every opinion, chasing every opportunity. You were meant to be focused, centered, anchored, aligned. The moment you start focusing on your alignment instead of your advancement, everything begins to accelerate. God doesn't bless confusion, He blesses clarity. When your heart is pure and your intentions are aligned, doors open without you knocking. Opportunities come without you begging. People find you because purpose attracts what belongs to it. That's the beauty of alignment. You don't have to chase what's already connected to your calling. So if you want life to fall into place, stop trying to control everything and start aligning everything. Align your thoughts with truth. Align your emotions with peace. Align your actions with purpose. Align your relationships with growth. Align your faith with obedience. You don't need to do more, you need to align better. Because when you are in alignment with God's will, everything that once felt out of reach begins to move toward you. That's not coincidence, that's covenant. The universe doesn't reward busyness, it responds to alignment. When you are aligned, you don't have to push, you are pulled. And that's when you realize the power of putting God and purpose first. Because once alignment happens on the inside, manifestation becomes inevitable on the outside. The discipline of self-focus, mastering your inner world. There comes a point in your life when you realize that the real battlefield is not out there, it's in here. The struggle is not with the people who doubt you, not with the circumstances that surround you, but with the voice inside that keeps pulling you away from your greatness. That's why focus is not just a strategy, it's a discipline. Self-focus is the art of mastering your inner world so that nothing external can control your direction. Most people are living from the outside in. They allow opinions, problems, and emotions to dictate who they are. But people who transform their lives live from the inside out. They decide first who they will be, and then they let that identity shape every thought, word, and action. Focus is not about ignoring the world. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in purpose that the noise can't distract you. You can't build a masterpiece if you keep looking up to see what everyone else is painting. You can't create your future if you keep scrolling through someone else's highlight reel. The discipline of self-focus begins with awareness, becoming conscious of what you allow into your mind, your heart, and your time. Every distraction you entertain is a deposit of your destiny given away. And in a world designed to steal your attention, the greatest rebellion is staying focused on yourself and your mission. When you guard your focus, you protect your potential. But self-focus requires training, because the mind is not naturally disciplined, it's naturally distracted. Your thoughts are like wild horses. If you don't take the reins, they'll run you into chaos. The disciplined mind learns to pause before reacting, to reflect before deciding, to stay centered when everything around is shaking. That's how you master your inner world. You stop letting emotions run the show. You stop giving power to everything that doesn't deserve your energy. When you develop this kind of discipline, peace becomes your default and power becomes your posture. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop fighting battles that don't matter and start winning the ones that do. The discipline of self-focus also means learning the power of saying no. Every yes to distraction is a no to your destiny. Every time you give your time to something meaningless, you rob your future of what it could have been. The reason most people never reach greatness is not because they lack talent, but because they lack focus. They're busy being everywhere, but effective nowhere. The disciplined person doesn't try to do everything. They do the right thing consistently. They know how to simplify their life around what truly matters. They wake up every morning not asking, what do I feel like doing? But what will move me forward? Feelings fade, focus doesn't. That's how you separate dreamers from achievers. Now, self-focus doesn't mean selfishness, it means stewardship. You are responsible for your energy, your thoughts, your growth. You cannot pour into others from an empty vessel. You cannot lift people if you're drowning in distraction. Self-focus means becoming the best version of yourself so you can serve from overflow, not depletion. It means mastering your habits, protecting your time, and honoring your boundaries. It means recognizing that every time you say yes to your growth, you're saying no to mediocrity. And that's a powerful decision, because mediocrity doesn't happen overnight. It happens every time you lose focus on what you're called to do. To master your inner world, you must also take responsibility for your thoughts. You can't live a positive life with a negative mindset. You can't build a successful future while repeating the same stories of failure. The mind obeys what it hears most. If you constantly feed it fear, doubt, and comparison, it will produce confusion. But if you feed it vision, truth, and faith, it will produce clarity. That's why meditation, prayer, and reflection are not optional. They are essential. They are the tools that help you renew your mind daily. The disciplined person doesn't wait for motivation. They create momentum through consistency. They train their mind like an athlete trains their body with repetition, patience, and persistence. The truth is, Your outer world will always mirror your inner world. If your thoughts are scattered, your life will be too. If your emotions are chaotic, your relationships will reflect it. But when you bring order within, order begins to show up around you. The secret to a strong life is a stable mind. You can't control the storms, but you can control your sails. You can't stop challenges from coming, but you can decide how you'll face them. And once you've built that inner stability, no amount of noise or negativity can shake your foundation. That's the discipline of self-focus, learning to stay grounded while the world spins. Self-focus also demands solitude. Silence is where you reconnect with your spirit. It's where clarity is born. Most people run from silence because it exposes them to themselves. But people who grow lean into silence because that's where they hear divine instruction. You can't receive revelation if your life is filled with noise. You can't recognize your next step if you're surrounded by chaos. The disciplined soul knows that stillness is not weakness, it's strategy. When you quiet the world, you can finally hear your own wisdom and God's. That's why the most powerful people are not the loudest, they are the most centered. Another dimension of mastering your inner world is emotional intelligence. You must learn to feel your emotions without becoming them. Anger, fear, disappointment, they are signals, not shackles. The disciplined person listens to those emotions, learns from them, and lets them go. They don't allow temporary feelings to make permanent decisions. They don't let someone else's chaos disturb their calm. Mastery of the inner world means learning that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of perspective. You learn to rise above reaction and move with wisdom instead of impulse. And finally, the discipline of self-focus is about identity. You must know who you are before the world tries to tell you. If you don't define yourself, you'll always chase definitions from others. You'll chase likes, approval, applause, all while losing yourself in the process. True focus means coming back home to your divine identity, understanding that you are not what happened to you, not what they said about you, not what you failed at. You are who God designed you to be. When you live from that truth, the noise fades and your purpose takes the stage. That's when your focus becomes unshakable. So, mastering your inner world is not a one-time act, it's a daily decision. Every morning, you must choose to control your mind before it controls you. You must choose purpose over pleasure, discipline over distraction, and peace over pressure. Because the moment you learn to master yourself, you become unstoppable. You no longer move like everyone else, think like everyone else, or live like everyone else. You begin to operate at a higher frequency, a frequency of focus, faith, and fulfillment. That's how you change your world, by mastering your own. Breaking distractions, protecting your energy and attention. If you ever wonder why some people never rise above average, it's not because they lack potential. It's because they let distractions drain their destiny. The enemy of focus isn't always failure sometimes, it's busyness. Too many people are moving but not progressing. They're active but not effective. They're scrolling, not studying. They're chasing attention instead of building alignment. And that's why life keeps circling back to the same place, because energy is leaking where focus should be building. You must understand, your attention is your most powerful currency. Every moment you spend looking at what doesn't serve you, you're paying with your destiny. Every argument, every gossip, every pointless comparison, it costs you something. The problem isn't that you don't have time. The problem is you give your time to the wrong things. Distraction is expensive. Focus is wealth. The truth is, most people lose not because they're unskilled, but because they're unavailable to their calling, unavailable to their growth, unavailable to the quiet voice of God trying to give direction. When you're distracted, you can't hear divine instruction. And if you can't hear instruction, you can't walk in purpose. That's why silence is powerful. That's why solitude is sacred. You must learn to protect your attention like a soldier protects his post, because if the enemy can't destroy you, he'll distract you until you destroy yourself. When God is preparing you for something great, he often separates you, not because he's punishing you, but because he's protecting you from noise. Elevation requires isolation. You can't hear heaven when you're surrounded by chaos. So when people start leaving, don't panic. When your circle starts shrinking, don't complain. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God removes people, habits, and environments that no longer match your next level. Here's the truth, you can't bring every friendship into your future. You can't entertain every invitation and expect divine transformation. Some environments feed your weakness, others feed your greatness. You must choose which one you want to live in. Discipline isn't about saying no to fun, it's about saying yes to purpose. Every yes you give must be intentional, because each yes is a seed that grows into your future. And when you begin to focus, don't expect everyone to understand. The moment you choose peace over popularity, people will call you distant. The moment you start saying no to what drains you, people will call you selfish. But remember, they don't understand your vision because they don't carry your assignment. Don't explain your silence to people who never valued your words. Don't justify your discipline to those who benefit from your distractions. Your job is not to please the crowd. Your job is to fulfill your calling. Focus demands that you guard your atmosphere. The people you spend time with shape your perspective. If you keep walking with talkers, you'll never become a doer. If you surround yourself with doubters, you'll forget how to dream. You need people who make you better, not bitter. People who remind you of your potential, not your past. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Your peace is proof that you're walking in alignment. When something disturbs your peace, it's a signal that's not your lane, that's not your season, that's not your assignment. When you start focusing, the world might get quieter, but your vision will get louder. You'll begin to see opportunities that were always there, but you were too distracted to notice. You'll find answers that were hidden in stillness. You'll realize that clarity doesn't come from movement, it comes from alignment. God speaks in whispers, not in noise. So if you want to hear him, you must turn down the volume of the world. Many people keep asking, why isn't my life changing? The answer is simple. You're trying to build your purpose while staying plugged into what keeps you powerless. You can't grow in soil that's poisoned by distraction. Unfollow what drains your faith. Distance yourself from what steals your joy. Fast from what feeds your fear. Every time you disconnect from distraction, you reconnect with destiny. Understand this focus is spiritual warfare. The enemy wants you addicted to approval, attached to comfort, and distracted by nonsense. But when you focus on your purpose, you become dangerous. Because a focused person can't be manipulated. A focused mind can't be deceived. And a focused spirit can't be defeated. Focus isn't about control, it's about clarity. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right thing. The moment you stop trying to do it all, you start doing what matters. When you learn to master your focus, you take control of your future. Because your future isn't determined by what you wish for, it's determined by what you work on consistently. What you give your attention to will multiply in your life. If you give your attention to fear, fear will grow. If you give your attention to faith, faith will grow. Whatever you focus on, you feed. So feed your faith and starve your distractions. There's power in focus because it forces you to prioritize. And what you prioritize reveals what you value. If you say you want to grow, but spend your time gossiping, growth isn't your priority. If you say you want peace, but keep returning to chaos, peace isn't your priority. The results of your life always reveal the focus of your life. So if you want to change your results, change your focus. Redirect your energy toward what builds, not what breaks. And here's the beautiful thing. When you truly focus on yourself, on your purpose, on your spiritual growth, everything else begins to align. People notice your glow. Opportunities start finding you. Doors you used to chase start opening automatically. Why? Because the universe responds to order. God blesses alignment. When your mind, actions, and intentions are in sync, the blessings flow naturally. So today, decide to protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Your destiny depends on what you give your attention to. Guard your time, guard your energy, guard your peace. Be ruthless about your purpose. Don't waste another moment explaining yourself to people who refuse to understand. Stay silent, stay focused, stay faithful. Because the same people who doubt you today will have to watch your discipline manifest tomorrow. And when that moment comes, you won't need to speak. Your results will preach louder than any words ever could. The power of isolation, growing when no one sees you. Most people crave recognition before they've earned revelation. They want to be seen before they've been shaped. But true transformation doesn't happen in front of people, it happens in private. Isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. When God calls you to greatness, He doesn't post it on a billboard. He hides you. He separates you from distractions, from validation, and sometimes from everyone you thought you needed not to break you, but to build you. Because if you can't handle being alone, you'll never handle being elevated. There's something sacred about the seasons when nobody notices you. It's where character is forged. It's where roots grow deep enough to handle the storms ahead. Everyone wants the fruit, but few want the root process. The root is ugly, hidden, unseen, but it's where life begins. And until your roots are strong enough, your fruit won't last. That's why God keeps you in isolation, not because He's forgotten you, but because He's fortifying you. When you're in a silent season, it's easy to mistake it for stagnation. You start wondering, why is nothing happening? But something is happening, it's just happening underground. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's inactive. God does His best work in the dark. Seeds grow in the soil, not in the sunlight. Babies form in the womb, not in the open. Diamonds are made in pressure, not in comfort. Every masterpiece begins in mystery. The problem is, most people don't survive the quiet seasons because they think silence means absence, but the silence of God is never the absence of God. It's often the signal that He's teaching you to depend on faith, not feelings. If you can't trust God when you can't trace Him, you'll never experience the kind of power that moves mountains. Faith grows in the dark when prayers feel unanswered, when doors stay closed, when nobody claps for you. That's when God tests whether you truly believe His promise or just enjoy His presence. Isolation is the furnace of greatness. It burns away approval addiction. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that noise kept you from noticing. When it's just you and God, the masks come off. You start realizing who you really are, not who people said you were, not who pain shaped you to be, but who you were designed to be. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because before you can lead others, you must first lead yourself. Before you can change the world, you must first conquer your inner world. You see, public success without private growth is a disaster waiting to happen. If you rise too fast without being rooted, pressure will expose what preparation could have healed. God isn't trying to delay you, He's trying to develop you. The waiting season isn't wasted, it's working something inside you. Every delay is divine design. Every closed door is a classroom. Every quiet night is God whispering, I'm not done with you yet. I'm building you for something bigger than what you're asking for. So instead of resenting the isolation, embrace it, use it, build in it. When nobody's watching, study harder, pray deeper, refine your gifts, strengthen your mind. While others chase applause, chase anointing. While they post for validation, prepare for elevation. Because when your preparation meets God's timing, nothing can stop your promotion. You don't have to force open doors that are already assigned to you, you just have to be ready when they open. But here's the key, don't come out of isolation the same person who went in. Use that season to transform, not to complain. Ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me here? Maybe He's teaching you patience. Maybe He's teaching you faith. Maybe He's teaching you how to stand strong when no one's clapping, because if you can stand in silence, you can shine in success. If you can handle being unseen, you can handle being unstoppable. There's something powerful about being hidden. When you're hidden, nobody can sabotage what they don't see. When you're hidden, you're protected from premature exposure. Exposure before maturity leads to destruction. Think of David, anointed in private, appointed in public. He didn't force his way to the throne. He served in silence, fought lions and bears in the wilderness. And when the time was right, God brought him before Goliath. That's what isolation does. It builds the kind of strength that doesn't need validation to stay faithful. Many people rush to be known, but they don't realize that being known too early can kill what God's still growing. You don't need a crowd to confirm your calling. You don't need likes to validate your light. When God says it's your time, no human can deny it. Until then, keep working in silence. Let your consistency speak louder than your complaints. You don't have to announce every move, just move. Because what's built in silence speaks in seasons of noise. And here's a truth few understand. Isolation is not just about being alone, it's about being aligned. When you're isolated, you hear yourself again. You rediscover your values, your vision, your voice. You start hearing God's whisper louder than the world's noise. You begin to realize that what you thought you lost was actually making space for what you were meant to gain. Every time God pulls you apart, He's pulling something greater out of you. So if you're in a lonely season right now, don't curse it, consecrate it. Use it to build discipline. Use it to strengthen faith. Use it to create something that will outlast you. Remember, flowers don't bloom all year. There are seasons of planting, watering, waiting, and finally harvesting. But the harvest always comes to those who didn't quit in the quiet. Don't let isolation make you feel abandoned. Let it make you anchored. Because one day, when everything you prayed for starts showing up, you'll look back and realize that the silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The season of being unseen was the training ground for the stage of being unstoppable. When God hides you, He's not trying to keep you from something. He's keeping you for something. So stop trying to rush what's meant to be revealed. Trust the process. Grow quietly. Build faithfully. Move purposefully. Because when the time comes for you to be revealed, the world won't see the isolation. They'll see the transformation. Stay faithful in the hidden places. Stay consistent when nobody's watching. Stay grateful when the reward seems delayed. Because in God's timing, the seed you've sown in silence will bloom so brightly that every moment of isolation will make perfect sense. And when it does, you'll realize the silence was never empty. It was full of purpose, growth, and divine preparation. You just had to trust it long enough to see it. Faith, focus, and fulfillment. Watching life fall into place. There comes a point in your journey where you realize life isn't falling apart, it's falling into place. But that only happens when you stop trying to control everything and start trusting the one who controls everything. You see, faith isn't about understanding the entire plan. It's about taking the next step even when you can't see the whole staircase. It's about believing that every delay has direction, that every no is making room for a better yes, and that every closed door is God's protection, not rejection. Faith is the foundation of focus. Without faith, you'll chase distractions, doubt your worth, and try to force outcomes that were never meant for you. But when you walk by faith, you stop competing with people and start collaborating with purpose. You stop comparing timelines and start trusting God's timing. The world teaches you to hustle harder. God teaches you to believe deeper. Because when your faith matures, your focus sharpens. You start filtering opportunities through your assignment. Not every good thing is a God thing. Not every door that opens leads to destiny. Some doors are detours dressed as opportunities. When you learn to focus on your purpose, not people's opinions, you become unstoppable. The world will always have something to say about your process, but their voice doesn't define your value. Focus means keeping your eyes fixed on what God told you to do, even when it looks like nothing is working. The moment you start listening to every voice around you, you lose the ability to hear the one voice that matters most. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. And in 2025, the greatest warfare isn't physical, it's mental. It's the battle for your attention, your belief, your time, and your focus. That's why faith and focus must walk hand in hand. Faith gives you the courage to keep moving when you can't measure progress. Focus gives you the clarity to stay consistent when distractions call your name. Together, they become the bridge that leads to fulfillment. Fulfillment doesn't come from external success, it comes from internal alignment. You can have 1 million followers and still feel empty. You can reach the top of the mountain and realize you climbed the wrong one. But when you live from a place of purpose, everything changes. Fulfillment is not the result of achieving goals. It's the result of becoming the person capable of achieving them. That's why you must master who you're becoming, not just what you're doing. You can't build a fulfilled life on an unhealed heart. You can't build peace on pride or progress on comparison. True fulfillment flows from faith, from knowing that even when it doesn't make sense, it still makes purpose. Every setback, every struggle, every silent season, it's all been preparing you for something greater than you imagined. Now, let's get real. There will be times when you doubt the process. Times when you look around and wonder, why isn't it happening for me yet? That's when faith does its most powerful work. Because faith isn't proven on the mountaintop, it's proven in the valley. When everything in you wants to give up, but something in you whispers, keep going. That whisper is the voice of destiny. That's the same voice that carried David through rejection, Joseph through betrayal, and Esther through fear. You have that same power inside you. But it only activates when you decide to stop looking around and start looking within. Focus begins with a decision to stop feeding your distractions. You can't expect peace when you're constantly scrolling through everyone else's progress. You can't build your dream if you're always checking how fast someone else is moving. Every time you compare, you subtract value from your own journey. Your timing is sacred. Your pace is divine. What's meant for you will find you when you stop running from who you're meant to become. Focus isn't about speed, it's about direction. You could be moving fast and still be lost. Faith brings peace to your pace. It tells you, you don't have to rush, just trust. Because the blessing that's built on belief lasts longer than the one built on burnout. You don't have to chase validation when you're walking in vision. You don't have to fight for attention when you're aligned with intention. When you have faith, you realize success isn't about control, it's about surrender. You stop forcing and you start flowing. You stop worrying about outcomes and start becoming the outcome. That's when life begins to fall into place. But fulfillment doesn't come without pruning. God will remove things that can't go where you're going. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's habits, sometimes it's your old mindset. Don't mourn the pruning, it's proof of growth. A tree doesn't cry when the gardener cuts off a branch. It trusts that the cut makes space for more fruit. That's what God does with you. He cuts away what's no longer serving you to prepare you for what's next. If you're holding on to what He's trying to remove, you're delaying what He's trying to release. So keep your faith strong, your focus sharp, and your spirit humble. Don't let emotions dictate your direction. Don't let impatience destroy your purpose. When it looks like nothing's working, remind yourself that God is working behind the scenes. He's aligning opportunities you can't yet see, orchestrating connections you don't even know exist, and preparing doors that will only open when you're ready. Faith is trusting that process even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. And when it does, when the pieces start coming together, you'll realize it wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence, and it wasn't random. It was divine alignment. Everything that looked like delay was actually design. Every no you heard was God making room for a better yes. Every moment of silence was God building your strength. You just had to stay focused long enough to see it. Fulfillment is the fruit of focus and faith. It's the peace that comes when you stop chasing and start becoming. It's the joy that doesn't depend on circumstances but flows from conviction. It's the confidence that says, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm exactly where I need to be. And once you reach that level of peace, nothing external can shake you. You stop begging for validation and start walking in revelation. You stop reacting to everything and start responding with wisdom. You stop worrying about who's ahead and start celebrating that you're still becoming. That's when you know life has begun to fall into place, not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally aligned with your purpose. You're no longer distracted by the noise, discouraged by the weight, or defined by the opinions of others. You've learned that faith fuels focus. Focus produces fruit, and fruit creates fulfillment. And the moment you master that cycle, you'll never chase peace again. Peace will chase you. So keep your eyes fixed forward. Keep your heart rooted in faith. Keep your mind focused on growth. Because as you do, the pieces you've been praying for will start aligning on their own. Not because you forced them, but because you became the version of yourself capable of receiving them. That's when you'll look back and say, I didn't make it happen, I became it. And when you become it, everything else falls into place exactly as it should.